Hello, everyone, and welcome to Easy English Conversations. I'm Anna, here in the UK, where the evening is drawing in.
And hello from me, Ben. It's just past 8 p.m. here in Phnom Penh. The city is lit up, and the busy day is winding down.
You know, Ben, this time of day often makes me feel a bit nostalgic. Nostalgic is that warm, slightly sad feeling you get when you think about happy times in the past.
I know exactly what you mean. It's the perfect mood for our topic today, growing up. We're going to take a journey back in time and ask each other that huge personal question. What was your childhood like?
It is a huge question. Your childhood shapes so much of who you are. And for many of us, it feels like a completely different world, especially when you think about how much technology has changed.
That's the biggest thing for me. I think our conversation today will sound very different from how two teenagers might describe their childhoods now. We grew up in a more analog world.
An analog world without smartphones and constant internet. Exactly. So we invite our listeners to get comfortable, perhaps think about their own childhoods as we share our memories.
Okay, Anna, to start us off, paint a picture for me. Where did you grow up? What did it look and feel like?
I grew up in the suburbs of a small city in England. A suburb is a residential area on the edge of a city. It was very green and quiet. We lived in a semi-detached house with a little garden in the back. My street was a cul-de-sac.
Can you explain what a cul-de-sac is for our listeners?
Of course, a cul-de-sac is a street that's closed at one end, so there was no traffic passing through. This meant it was very safe, and it basically became the neighborhood playground. My childhood memories are filled with the smell of cut grass and the sound of children's laughter.
That sounds idyllic. What kind of games did you play?
We were always outdoors, roaming around the neighborhood on our bikes. To roam around means to walk or travel without a clear purpose or direction. We built forts in the nearby woods, played hide and seek until it got dark. We were experts at making our own fun. We had to use our imaginations.
That sounds like a world away from my experience. I grew up in a big city in the United States, in Chicago. My playground was made of concrete.
Tell me about that. A city childhood sounds so exciting to me.
It was exciting, but in a different way. We lived in an apartment building, so no private garden for us. The sounds I remember are traffic, sirens, and music from passing cars. We didn't roam freely like you did. Our world was our city block. We played street hockey or a game called stickball, which is like baseball but played with a rubber ball and a broom handle.
So your games were more structured.
Yes, and we had to be creative in a different way. In the summer, when it was boiling hot, the best thing in the world was when someone would open up a fire hydrant and we could all run through the cold water. The local park was a special treat we had to walk to, not something just outside our door. My urban childhood was loud, diverse, and full of energy, but I do envy the free. Let's move on to school. Were you a good student? What were your favorite subjects?
I was an okay student. I was a bit of a daydreamer. My favorite subjects were always art and science. I loved the creativity of art class, and I loved the experiments in science class. The feeling of discovery. What about you?
Unsurprisingly, I was a total bookworm. I loved English literature and history. I loved stories, whether they were fictional or real stories from the past. My least favorite was definitely maths. I just couldn't get my brain to work that way.
Me neither. Now, here's a really interesting question for our generation. What did you do when you got home from school?
The classic after-school routine. It was very structured. First, homework at the kitchen table, After that, I was allowed to watch TV. But back then, you couldn't just watch anything you wanted anytime. There were specific children's shows that were on from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. You had to watch them then, or you'd miss them forever.
No streaming, no YouTube. I remember that feeling. It made those shows feel so special. My routine was a bit different. I would often have an after-school club like chess club or the school newspaper. When I got home, my main memory is of our first video game console, a Nintendo. My brother and I would play for hours. That felt like the peak of technology.
Oh, we had one of those too. We also had a VCR to watch movies on cassette tapes. We'd have to go to a video rental store to choose a film for the weekend.
And don't forget making mixtapes on cassette tapes from the radio. The world before the internet was so different. There was more room for boredom, I think. And boredom often led to creativity. If there was nothing on TV and you'd finish your homework, you had to invent something to do.
That's so true. It forced you to pick up a book or draw a picture or just go outside. It was a simpler time in many ways.
Thinking about all this, it makes me wonder, what did you want to be when you grew up, Anna?
I wanted to be a writer or a librarian. Basically, anything that would allow me to be surrounded by books all day. It's not so far from being an English teacher, I suppose. What about you, the city kid who loved art and science?
My dream was to be an astronaut. I was obsessed with space. When I got a bit older and realized the maths involved, that dream changed. For a while, I wanted to be an artist or a graphic designer. I guess my current work in marketing has a creative element, so a little piece of that dream survived.
It's funny how those early interests shape our paths, even if we don't realize it at the time. Now, I have one last question for you, a hard one. Can you think of one object or a single memory that, for you, is the ultimate symbol of your childhood?
Wow, that is a hard one. Let me think. I think it would have to be my first skateboard. It wasn't anything fancy, but it represented freedom to me. Learning to ride it, falling off 100 times, and finally cruising down the street with my friends, that feeling was pure joy and independence. It was my ticket to exploring the blocks beyond my own. What about you?
For me, it would be a book, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It was the first book I ever read that made me feel like I had been transported to another world. The pages were dog-eared and worn, which means the corners were bent. We've taken such a lovely trip down memory lane. Let's recap some of the great vocabulary we used to talk about growing up. Nostalgic, the feeling of looking back fondly on the past. Suburbs versus urban, the areas outside a city versus inside a city. Cul-de-sac, a street closed at one end. Roaming around or making our own fun, phrases for unstructured play. A simpler time, a phrase we use to describe the past, often before modern technology. Analog technology, like a VCR or cassette tapes. Dog-eared, a description for a well-loved book with bent page corners.
That's a great list. Now it's time to ask our listeners to reflect. Please pause the audio and try to answer these questions out loud. First, did you grow up in a city, the suburbs, or the countryside? And second, what did you want to be when you grew up? Pause for 20 seconds. It's so fascinating to look back. Our childhoods were so different, Anna, but they were both filled with play, learning, and imagination.
They were. And I think that's the universal truth of childhood. The details change, but the spirit is the same. It's the foundation of who we become.
This has been a really wonderful conversation. Thank you for sharing your memories. And thank you, everyone, for listening and taking this journey with us.
We hope it brought back some happy memories for you too. Until next time, goodbye.
Take care, everyone.